Hi, I'm Tammy Stanley, founder of the Sales Refinery. Have you ever thought about some prospects that you were going to call, but then you listened to a little voice inside your head that convinced you it was too early or it was too late to make that phone call? Or have you ever had a conversation with a prospect or a customer that just didn't go very well? And after that call, you really didn't feel up to making any more calls the rest of the day or maybe even the rest of the week? Or have you ever listened to a free webinar or a free teleseminar that promised to deliver the answers to all your most burning questions? But at the end of that free teleseminar or webinar, you felt actually even more insecure about your business. Well, you're probably not alone. And in terms of the free webinar or the free teleseminar, that's what they're designed to do. They're designed to make you aware of some missing, and then the solution or the way to fill that void is with the product or the service that's being offered. And yes, I've done that before too. But you know what? I never really enjoyed it. I always felt uncomfortable giving those kinds of presentations. So today, I chose to change that model. I doubt very seriously that I'll be changing it for the industry, just so you know. But I am changing it for me and how I'm operating my business. So today, as a professional salesperson, you're entitled to watch this entire presentation, and it is one of my most popular speeches on being persuasive, not pushy. Increase your results with irresistible offers. You're going to love this presentation, and I'm going to share it in its entirety with you in terms of what my speech is. Now look, at the end of it, you may have questions, more like you're going to be thinking, well, can I have a few more examples of some irresistible offers? Now, you may not feel that way, and that's fine, but it's often common that people say, yeah, I'd like just a few more examples of some irresistible offers. Well, I have great news for you, because if this presentation resonates with you and you want some examples of some irresistible offers, well, you can qualify for my free audio recording on increased results with irresistible offers that has a whole hour of different examples of irresistible offers and different types of settings where you might use it. So you can pick that up for free when you invest in my book, Carpe Phonem, for just $15. How about that? Oh my gosh. Did you notice what I just did? I just presented an offer right away. Why? Well, I have to confess, because that's what I'm going to teach you to do when you reach out to your prospects and your customers. And I best lead by example. But why would you want to present an offer at the beginning of a call? That might be a good question to ask. And so let me just investigate this for a moment before I launch into sharing with you how to be persuasive, not pushy, and how to present irresistible offers. I'll be sharing with you 10 keys to presenting irresistible offers. But let's just investigate this for a moment. Why would you start with an irresistible offer? Or why would I begin this video presentation and share right away, hey, I got this book and you can get it? Why would I do that right away? Well, first off, you get to relax as my prospect. Just consider the situation at hand. You now do not have to wonder what I am up to in this video presentation. There is nothing to wonder about. It is out on the table. Hello, I wrote this book. And because I wrote it, of course I think it's great. And of course I want you to buy it, okay? Duh. I mean, of course, right? I'm a salesperson. Hello. And if you're watching this, I know you are too, okay? And there's nothing bad or awful about selling. selling is a blast. And you know it can be. All right. And I'm going to be sharing you ways to make it even more fun. Well, one of the ways to make it more fun is to present your offer right away, because then your prospects get to relax. Now, let's just go back to those teleseminars or those free webinars that you've been on. Didn't you ever notice how you have resistance going up the whole time? You're kind of sitting there going, I don't want to listen too hard, or I don't want to lean in too strongly because they're going to talk me into something, which is what? They're going to talk me into parting with what's inside my back pocket, right? Like what? They're going to persuade me to part with my cash, and I don't want to do it, right? And that's a natural prospect. Prospects don't want to part with their cash. Haven't you ever been a prospect? Yeah, right? And so they naturally just resist you when you're talking on and you haven't yet presented your offer. They're like, what are you up to? What are you up to? So their guard is always up. So they're not necessarily fully listening to you. And they're resisting you. Okay, so you want to get rid of resistance, and I'll share more about that in a moment. But you want to get rid of that resistance. Let's take it out of the sales arena for just a moment. And have you ever received a phone call from someone, and there was something about that phone call that just right from almost the get-go, you knew they were going to ask you for something? Like, are they going to ask me to take them to the airport at midnight? Or are they going to ask me to help them move or something? I mean, what are they up to? There's like, it's just something. You detect something. Yeah, because we're not that stupid, right? Humans know these things. They can tell when you're up to something. And then when that person finally got to whatever it was that they wanted to ask you for, didn't you think to yourself, so this is why you called? Maybe you didn't say it, but you probably thought it, or you thought something similar to that. And I'm going to suggest right now that that is resistance. When you say, so this is why you called. That to me sounds like resistance. And resistance does not help you in sales. In fact, it gets very much in the way. All right. So now with my offer out on the table, you know what I'm up to and you can relax. But there's more. I get to relax. You see, as the salesperson, I don't think about this. I know from being a speaker or having delivered some of those teleseminars where you're waiting to give your pitch at the end of the call. Okay, it's for me, I just hated it. It was so frustrating because I would be sharing, and then I knew that moment was coming up where I had to put on the proverbial sales hat and move into the close. And you just don't want to do it. You're like, how can I do it? How can I make it sound natural? It just feels so icky, even as a salesperson. Yeah, for the prospect, I think it feels icky, and for the salesperson, it feels icky. And if it feels icky for you as a salesperson, I assure you it feels icky for your prospects. That's probably not the most professional way to describe the situation, but that's kind of what's so, at least according to Tammy Stanley. Okay, so this right now, you may say, no, I have no problem with any of that. So I can just tell you right now, I'm not your gal. This is for people that it resonates with them, what I'm saying right now. If it resonates with you, you're going to love my presentation, because I'm going to be sharing with you how you get rid of all that resistance and have fun presenting offers. Well, there's still one more great thing about presenting an offer right away as the salesperson, and that is once you relax, you can lean in and listen to your customers. I maintain that there is no better way to be with a customer than to be listening, or to be with a prospect than listening. That is the best way to be as a salesperson, right? To be there listening and seeing whether or not you even have something that they need. All right. So now you know all the reasons why I say, hey, go ahead and present your offer. And I finally thought, hey, if I'm telling people to do that, why am I not doing it? Just because that's not the normal model that all these speakers are following doesn't mean I have to do what everybody else is doing, right? So let's get started now. Oh, and I almost missed my key point. When you can really lean in and listen to your customers, that is when you can really make a difference. And isn't that what we always say about being in sales that's so great is, oh, I get to really make a difference. Okay, well then you best present that offer, relax, then you can lean in, really listen, and then really make a difference. So now I best be getting to it and making a difference with you by telling you the 10 keys to presenting an irresistible offer. To begin, what I want to do is set the stage just for a moment before I launch into the 10 keys. And I'm going to do this by talking to you about what I call the whole concept of sales. That's a way that we used to do present the whole concept in charades. I love charades. So anyway, the whole concept of sales according to Tammy Stanley. All right, so imagine that right now you and I are standing across from one another, and in between us there is a giant mud puddle. We have a large rope that we're holding on to. What do you think you would do if I suddenly started to pull rather forcefully on that rope? You might have said, well, I would pull back. Well, yes, because you wouldn't want to tumble into that mud puddle now, would you? No. Now, you might have said, I would let go. And for the same reason, because you did not want to go into that mud puddle. You would let go. And then I would be going that way. All right, I might fall down or whatever. Okay, guess what? This is my analogy of the sales process. When you try to pull your prospects over to your way of thinking, they just naturally resist you and they pull themselves back to their own way of thinking. They might say something like, no, that's okay. I'm just looking. Or, no, that's okay. I don't really need what you are offering. I'm fine the way I am. Sometimes, however, what they do is they completely get out of the conversation. Now, maybe you have some prospects that you can think of where they might even be friends of yours, where you came on and you were like super salesy and talking to them all about some great new product or service that you had or something like that. And then they, I don't know, after a while you see that they're kind of avoiding you. Yeah, it's called letting go. They have removed themselves from this sales conversation. Okay, that's natural. And so that's one of the things that prospects do. And if you notice, what they're doing is they're in some way, they're resisting you. So that is the key, this word resist or resistance. And I want you to go ahead and think of resistance as rejection in the world of sales. When there's resistance going on between you and your prospect, you are naturally going to feel rejected. One more analogy. Let's say now that your hand is lightly pressed against my hand. What do you think you would do if I suddenly began to push rather forcefully? You would probably push back, or again, you would remove your hand. Again, an analogy of the sales process. When you try to push your prospects into buying something or into booking an appointment, they just naturally resist, or they go out of communication with you. They remove themselves from the picture. And sometimes, when they just let go, that's when you kind of stumble, you fall, if you will. You get doubtful about yourself in sales. So it is very much like the rope analogy. If you let go and I'm pulling really hard, I could end up falling down, and I'm not going to look very good when I fall down. Okay, so this is what happens to us when we push too hard or we pull too hard. Sometimes we don't end up looking very good. We end up looking really salesy. Okay, So that's just that concept of sales. And what we want to do is learn how to remove the resistance that is there between our prospects and us, because the less resistance there is, the easier it is going to be to sell. I'm not saying selling is easy, but it's definitely easier when there isn't resistance between you and your prospects. And when there is resistance going on between you and your prospects, what they're showing you is they're not in agreement with you. So if your prospect isn't in agreement with you, really, like, how are you going to sell something to them? Even if that something that you're selling is just an appointment, just to get together for an appointment, it's just not going to go very well. Okay, so when we begin a sales conversation, whether it's on the telephone or in person, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to just continue this as if you're prospecting on the telephone, but you can take everything that I'm saying or that I'll say and apply it elsewhere in your sales business, okay? But at the very beginning of a sales call, what do we need to do? Well, think about this. Where is your prospect right now? Is your prospect, or where are your prospect's thoughts? Is your prospect thinking about you? No, your prospect is always thinking about himself or herself. So that's what prospects do. They're always concerned with themselves, their own problems, their own desires, whatever, okay? So when you start a sales conversation, you actually cannot be over in your side of the court thinking about you and your agenda. I know it's tough because you want to go make some sales. So it's just natural that you're going to be thinking from your own agenda. But you have to get over there into your prospect side of the court and put yourself in their shoes, because that's how you'll best communicate with them, because they're not concerned about you, they're concerned about them. So if you come from a place that they can understand, namely their own agenda, there is going to be a lot less resistance in this conversation. But how do salespeople begin their calls? Well, first off, many salespeople have heard that it's very important to be enthusiastic. I can remember hearing years ago that the last four letters of the word of enthusiasm are IASM, and that stands for I am sold myself. Therefore, when you go out to customers, you need to be sold yourself. You need to show how excited you are about your products or your service, and you need to be sold too. That's called I'm a salesperson, I'm a salesperson, and what do prospects do when they see those neon flashing lights of I'm a salesperson coming at them? They resist. They push the button for the wall of resistance to go up to protect themselves from you, because they don't want you grabbing their back pocket. They don't want you grabbing their wallet, okay? So it's just natural for them to resist that. And yet, that is often what we do. We think that we need to sound really cheery and peppy because we want to convince our prospects that we've really got something cool. But the more that we come on super duper excited like that, that's like pushing your prospect or trying to pull them over to your way of thinking. And that's your agenda. That's not their agenda. So they're naturally going to resist you. In fact, many salespeople begin their sales calls by saying something like this. Hi, Jane, this is Tammy Stanley with the Sales Refinery. Did I catch you at a good time? And what do prospects often say when we do that? They say, well, I'm right in the middle of something. Now, you see, it doesn't matter if what they were in the middle of was sorting junk mail. It makes perfect sense that they told you they're in the middle of something, because really now, how many people sit around all day and wait for a salesperson to call them? That's not what they do. So even if they were doing something like sorting junk mail, they were doing something. They weren't expecting your call. So you didn't catch them at a good time. You interrupted them. All right? Now, I know there's talk out there about how no, you need to begin positively because then that's what you'll get your prospect to do. But prospects are not that easy. Not most of them, anyway. So, what you want to do is actually get over into your prospects world and show you understand them. And in fact, there is a marketing principle that I'll share with you in just a moment that works really, really well with this. But first, let me share with you the tip that I have for how to start your sales calls. Instead of saying, "Did I catch you at a good time?" and being really enthusiastic, I implore you to calm down and say something like this. Hi Jane, this is Tammy Stanley with the Sales Refinery. Did I catch you at a bad time? And now, because I've shown Jane that I'm over in her side of the court, that I understand what's going on with her, she says, "No, it's a great time. What can I do for you?" Now, you're probably thinking, right, it's not that simple, Tammy. I don't believe you. Okay, true. Not all of your customers are going to say, "It's a great time. What can I do for you?" But it is going to shock you just how many of them say exactly that. Like, it will shock you. And why? Okay, well, it's not just reverse psychology. Oh, I got it. It's a little reverse psychology. No, that's not it. It's this marketing principle in full force. And that is, prospects do not buy from you when they understand you or your company. Prospects buy from you when they feel like you understand them. This is the marketing rule to remember at all prospecting times. Always. Your prospects don't buy from you because they understand you or your company. And yet, what are we as salespeople almost always doing? Talking on and on about how great our products or our service are, or how great our company is, or how long we've been in business, so how great we are, or whatever. But we're always talking about ourselves. And we think that the more we give them about how awesome we are, then the more they'll be inclined to buy. But it's actually not true, because every time that you talk about yourself or your company, you're alienating your customer or your prospect, because what they need to hear is how you understand them, and then they'll buy. So this is why asking, "Did I catch you at a bad time?" works so unbelievably well. Because in that moment, you show your prospect that you understand them, that they're busy, and that they weren't sitting around waiting for your sales call. And because you show them that you understand them, they drop all their resistance and they gladly take your phone call. It's just a natural reaction. We have just unbelievably great results from this at the Sales Refinery. If you doubt me, test it. That's all you have to do is test it. One summer we tested this making cold calls, and we found that while making cold calls, when we asked, did I catch you at a good time, we had 0% effectiveness. That's a result that speaks pretty loudly, if you ask me. Now, from our customers, we have glowing testimonials about how this has totally transformed their sales business. I remember one time I gave a presentation at a national conference, and later I discovered, because this gentleman came up and confessed it to me, but there was a gentleman in the audience that thought, that Tammy, she's full of baloney. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. So during the break, he went out and called a friend, and somebody that he had been meaning to prospect. And he called his friend and he said, "Did I catch you at a bad time?" And his friend said, "No, it's a great time. We're right in the middle of moving and I'm just packing up a box. What can I do for you?" Hello. This gentleman was so blown away, and then he realized, wow, maybe there's something to that. And the following year, when I was back at his national conference speaking again, he came up and shared with me that that had made such a difference in his business. So, and I have so many testimonials about that, even ones that are more impressive than the one I just told you. Like, we have some crazy ones. In fact, what we've discovered is that oftentimes it really isn't a good time, but they tell you it is anyway. And because of what you're going to learn from me in the next few moments about how to present an irresistible offer right away, it's glorious because they take your call, you present your offer, and then they get to relax and choose yes or no. And that's what prospects like. They like the freedom to choose. Okay? So you'll be hearing more about that. But let's go ahead and move on. So the first key to presenting an irresistible offer is to begin the right way. And you do that by asking, did I catch you at a bad time? And also by lowering that enthusiasm, not being so super, super excited and salesy sounding. Now, I do want to clarify something because you might be thinking, wait, so are you telling me not to be enthusiastic? Okay, come on. I'm pretty enthusiastic. You may not have yet noticed it during this video, but come on. I'm doing this free video and it took some work to put it together. Like the first shot I did, I was like, oh, that's not going up online. I look way, way, way too old. So I had to do this a couple of times. I'm very enthusiastic. But to me, enthusiasm, the kind of enthusiasm that you want in your sales business is not the, hi, it's Tammy Stanley with the Sales Refinery. No, not that kind. That's salesy. I'm talking about enthusiasm like, I don't feel like making prospecting calls today, but I'm going to anyway. Now that's enthusiasm. I don't have time to read Tammy's book, but I'm going to find a few minutes every day to do it anyway. That's enthusiasm. Okay, so you get my drift. I'm not saying not to be enthusiastic. I'm saying lower the salesiness. Okay, so at the beginning of the call, begin the right way, lower that salesiness, and ask, just inquisitively, did I catch you at a bad time? It's not, hi, it's Tammy Stanley, did I catch you at a bad time? No, get over into their world, because that doesn't sound like I'm saying, did I catch you at a bad time? So just really be inquisitive. Did I catch you at a bad time? Okay, you got it, right? Let's move on. Tip number 2, don't wing it. Don't wing it. Now, a lot of times salespeople say, oh, no, it's okay. I'll just wing it. Once I get on the call, I'll be fine. No, don't wing it, because chances are you'll blow it. You have roughly 6 seconds to grab a prospect's attention these days. They have so many marketing messages coming at them all the time. The only way to break through is to catch their attention right away. And you won't do that by being unprepared. You want to know what to say and how to say it most effectively. If I call you up, for example, and I'm just going to wing it, this is what that call might sound like. Hi, it's Tammy. Yeah, so I was thinking, already the wall of resistance is going up because I sound weird. I sound like I'm up to something. I sound like I'm going to ask you for something. Already you sense it. So that's what happens when you go unprepared, when you're trying to wing it, is that you risk sounding like you're going to ask for something and they just naturally resist you. Okay, so you don't want to do that. Now you might be going, wait a minute, are you going to tell me to use a script? Yeah, I am. But it's not like an entire script. I'm telling you to have an offer ready. You're going to put together an irresistible offer. You're going to learn more about that in the rest of this presentation. Then you're going to put an irresistible offer together. Then, sure, you can practice it a few times in front of a mirror if you want to, but one of the best ways to start practicing is through implementation. Reach out to your least probability prospects. So the people that you're just sure they're going to tell you no. In fact, you probably wouldn't even call them. Call them. practice with them. They're real live prospects. This is the way to get good at sales. You have to practice, because you cannot expect to just be good right from the get-go. We aren't all Mozart. We can't all pick up a violin at 2 years old and play it and stun the adults sitting in the room. Okay? That's the story about him, by the way. But we don't all have that ability necessarily in sales. I mean, we have the ability to, we can develop our ability, but it's a skill. We can develop that skill, but we might need to practice. So practice with people that you are sure are going to tell you no. Then when they start giving you their concerns or sharing with you their concerns or their objections, you might stumble. You might look bad a couple of times. Ooh, get over it. We all look bad sometimes. Okay? So the neat thing, though, is that they might say something that catches you totally off guard. You have no idea how to handle that or how to overcome that concern or whatever. And so it goes kind of awkward, and you get off the phone, and then you'll be sort of upset with yourself for a few minutes, and then bam! It'll come to you what you could have said. It'll be like, I should have had a V8, right? And guess what? Now you can call your prospect right back. That's called enthusiasm. And you can share with them, hey, when you said blah, 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 I didn't know what to say. But when we hung up the phone, of course, then I figured it out right away. And I was just thinking that blah, blah, blah. And then you can share, okay? And if you go, I am not doing that, Tammy, that's okay, because you'll know now the next time a prospect raises a concern that's similar to that. But of course, the next time you talk to somebody, they won't raise that concern. They'll raise another one, and you won't know how to handle it. And then you'll get off the phone and bam, it'll come to you what you could have said. You get my point, right? The point is that by being in communication with people, you will start to figure it all out. Give yourself some credit here. You'll get this, and you'll get it really quickly. By the end of a week, you'll be sailing through this. And then by the time you reach out to your high probability prospects, or the prospects that you really, really want to talk to, like your gold mine prospects, you'll be pretty darn good by then. And you'll be able to present irresistible offers and have conversations with them that probably end in a transaction or an appointment. Okay? So, you got it. Don't wing it. People like to hear their own name. Not a big surprise. I'm sure you already know to use people's names. You don't want to overuse them because you don't want to sound manipulative, but you definitely want to use their name. And what I found works really great is at the beginning of a call, if I'm reaching out to Jane and I know that it's Jane that just answered, or I think it probably is Jane, I'm still going to say, "Hi, is Jane there?" She's going to say either "this is Jane" or "this is." And then I'm going to say, "Hi, Jane. This is Tammy Stanley with the Sales Refinery. Did I get you at a bad time?" Now notice what just happened is Jane heard Jane, 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 and she thinks, I love this conversation because it's all about me. And yes, customers and prospects, they just love conversations that are all about them, because who are they thinking about? You? No, themselves. So get over there and use their name, and you'll be very effective. All right. When you are reaching out to prospects, maybe people you haven't talked to in a long time, or if you're new to business, or if you're not new to business, and you're even reaching out to people you don't know, or if you're cold calling, it just really doesn't matter. Do not begin your calls by asking your prospects how they are doing. Don't do that. And yet, what do we just by rote do? "Hi, Jane, it's Tammy Stanley with the Sales Refinery. How are you?" I mean, it's just natural for us to do that. We even say to people on the street, how are you? And we're not asking them to really answer. It's just a automatic kind of thing that we do. But the danger in it while prospecting is twofold. One, your prospects may tell you how they are doing. And I don't mean in a good way. When you give humans the chance to piss and moan, they often do. And then, how's this conversation going to go? Well, it's unleashed now, and you've got to somehow get it back on the leash. While they're off talking about how sorry their life is going, you're thinking, how am I going to segue? How am I going to segue? You aren't going to segue. And if you do, it's not going to sound very well. What are you proposing? That they're talking about all these difficulties that they're having and these challenges, and then you say, well, as long as we're talking about your problems, let's talk about your finances. I think you need to come in and see me about your, I don't know, savings plan. I don't know. Or I think, how are your finances doing? Do you need a new business opportunity? What? No, you're not going to segue. And when you do, it's not going to be a segue. It's going to be a stumble. Okay. So don't do that. All right. Here's the other reason. It's disingenuous. When you call your prospects or your customers, are you calling them just to find out how they're doing? No, you're calling them because you want to present an offer to them. So you best be getting to it, because then you don't sound disingenuous. If my insurance agent calls me and tells me, hey, this is Mary Contreras with State Farm, how are you today? The first thing I'm thinking is, Mary, what do you want? What do you want? Okay? So that's not actually true. I am really good friends with my insurance agent, Mary Contreras. But if she's doing a sales call, then I don't want her starting with, how are you? Because I don't want to be talking about my kids and all of this, and then suddenly I find out that what she was really calling about was just to get me in to have our yearly review. Just ask me for the yearly review, for crying out loud. Don't waste my time by trying to butter me up and ask me how my kids are doing, right? That makes sense. So that's how your prospects feel. So don't ask them how they're doing. Now you could say, okay, but let's take this situation with my good friend. See, if she were making some kind of prospecting call, like trying to get me in for my yearly review, then she could do that. And then at the end of the call, whether or not I said yes or no, like even if I said, no, I just don't want to meet with you right now, she could say, it's okay, I understand you're up to a bunch of things, Tammy, but before I let you go, as long as I have you on the call today, I'd love to hear how your family and you are doing. Do you have time to share it with me? Now, what's there? Wow, well, I know. I just love Mary for doing that. She is that way, and that's why I love Mary. But you understand the difference. Now it feels genuine. So now I know that Mary really does care about me. She didn't ask me just to butter me up. I told her no, and she's now saying, oh, but that's okay. And let's talk about our friendship now. Okay, so if you have people that are your customers or your prospects, but they're also your friends, well, then show them that they are your friends by asking them at the end of the call how they're doing. Okay. Do not begin, this is tip number 5, do not begin by telling your customers that you're just going to take a few moments of their time. Prospects do not have time to give away, and they certainly don't want you to take it. Another thing that I often hear from salespeople is, this is just going to take a minute. The one I really cannot stand is, this is just going to take a second. You've already broken your promise on that one, because now a second's up, right? So don't say things like that are not true, because people know there's no authenticity in that and they resist it. But how do you communicate to your prospect that this is going to be quick, that you really just want to spend a few moments with them? Well, then say, I'm giving you a quick call today. Because by saying, I'm giving you a quick call, you've communicated that this is going to be quick, that you're not going to use up a lot of their time. Then all you have to do is present your offer right away, and then you can keep the call quick. You can end up being your word and making it a quick call. And so this is just such a brilliant way to work on the telephone, because you can get your appointments, or you can get the sale or whatever you're after quickly without wasting your time and without wasting your customer's time. It's just beautiful. All right. So up until this point, what you can see is I've been sharing with you these ways to remove resistance from a normal sales conversation. So let's just review. Begin the right way. Don't ask customers if you caught them at a good time. Ask them if you caught them at a bad time. And don't be too happy-go-lucky. Don't be too salesy sounding. Use their name, and then be prepared. Know what you're going to say and how to say it most effectively. Do not ask them how they are doing, and instead of telling them that you're just going to take a few moments of their time, tell them that you're giving them a quick call today. All right, so all of those things now help to remove the resistance that is normally present in a sales conversation. And now what we can look at is what to say to be highly persuasive and ultimately present an irresistible offer. So tip number 6 is to use words that prospects and customers love to hear. Marketers have tested the efficacy of many different words, and they have found certain words to be very tried and true, and therefore very effective with prospects. Some of those words are preferred, entitle, qualify, flexible, and program. Use some of those words when you're presenting an offer, because customers and prospects love to hear them, and they have a very difficult time resisting an offer that has some of those words. Case in point, I have read books all about this. I know about these words that marketers love to hear, and yet still, every time that my dear Bon Appetit magazine sends me something in the mail that says something like, as one of our preferred subscribers, you're entitled to attend Vegas Uncorked this year, I feel my heartstrings being pulled, because, well, even though I know that every subscriber of Bon Appetit receives the same letter, like my son, for instance, whose subscription I paid for 10 years, even though I know they're all getting that same letter, I happen to believe that they really mean it when they're talking to me. And I certainly know that everybody on the block is not being invited to Vegas Uncorked. I know that I'm entitled to be invited because I'm a subscriber of Bon Appetit. Now, granted, I'd have to pay $1,000 to go, but I'm still entitled to go. And there's more. Yes, I love Bon Appetit. You see, I started subscribing to Bon Appetit magazine in 1988. And after 10 years, I thought, okay, come on. I've got 10 years of their magazines. I didn't throw them away. I thought, I don't really need to subscribe any longer, because I can just go back and go through magazines and find recipes that I didn't make, or even maybe repeat one or two. That would be novel. So I thought, I don't really need to do this anymore. So I didn't bother to renew my subscription. Well, they did not miss that. And they launched the most amazing campaign I have ever seen to win back a customer. Oh boy, did they. send me letters like you wouldn't believe, and just offers after offers and reminders after reminders to, oh, you might have missed it. Maybe you forgot. Did you not see our last notice? You're about to, this may be your last issue. You've missed the last issue. I mean, they just didn't stop. And I was determined I was not going to subscribe. But then I received a letter that said, where did we go wrong? Did we fail to deliver mouth-watering recipes? Did we fail to do this? Did we fail to do that? And I thought, oh, for crying out loud, look at them just begging for my business. And I thought, for crying out loud, anybody that is willing to beg for my business like that can certainly have it. And in fact, I vow now to never unsubscribe to Bon Appetit magazine for as long as I shall live. And I held that promise for quite a long time, but then I broke it at year 27. At year 27, I went, come on, Tamster, how many more Bon Appetit magazines do you need? I've kept them all. I mean, I could go back to 1988 and go through nearly 30 years and it would probably last me the rest of my life. Really, Tammy, you can unsubscribe. You've been a long-time subscriber. You've been good to Bon Appetit. They've been good to you. And you can just not renew your subscription. Well, they, of course, launched the usual campaign. And as each letter came and each email now, I just delighted in how awesome their marketing strategy was to win me back. But I knew this time I would not be resubscribing. And then they sent me their final letter. Well, that is, I think it's their final letter, but I can't be sure because it got me to take action. Their final letter to me said, well, we can see that you have chosen to not renew your subscription. And we just want you to know that we have loved having you as one of our subscribers. And we are going to be very sad to see you lose your professional status. What? My professional status? You mean they do know who I am? They do know that I've been a customer for 27 years, now 28. Yes, what am I telling you? Why the long story? To prove to you that even if you are worried that some of your prospects and your customers might see through what you're doing by using these words, they will think you are brilliant for understanding that they truly are preferred, entitled, and that they deserve professional status. So use words that marketers have proven to be effective, and your customers and your prospects will love you for it. All right, moving on. Years ago, the results of an experiment done by Dr. Ellen Langer, a Harvard psychologist, showed several interesting human behaviors that are important to you when you're reaching out to prospects and customers. Now, Dr. Langer wanted to prove that people are more inclined to do us a favor when we present a good reason or when we give them a reason. And this was demonstrated in the first experiment where they had people that were standing in line at a library copier machine. They asked those people the following question or the following request. Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I'm in a rush? 94% of the time, people said yes. They allowed those individuals to go ahead of them with that request. Now, that makes sense to me when I'm at the airport and somebody says, can I go ahead of you? My plane's about to leave. I say, yeah, go ahead. Now, if you were thinking, I don't do that. I don't ever let people go ahead of me in line. That's not a problem. You're just in that 6% of people that say no. It's that simple. But 94% of the time, people say yes to a request where there's a reason given like that. All right, now, not surprisingly, the results went down when they were asked without a reason. So it went down to 60% when people were asked, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine?" Now, what amazes me is that still 60% of the time people said yes to that. "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine?" Maybe it's because there's only 5 pages. Maybe it's just because you asked. I mean, it would be like you saying, "Well, excuse me, I have 5 dates available. Would you like to meet with me on one of those dates?" It's not the sexiest of offers. It's not the most irresistible of offers, but it is an offer. This is why sometimes you will meet individuals, you'll think, but they don't sell much. And then you find out that they do sell quite a bit. Why? Because they're asking. They might even be selling more than you. What's the reason? They're asking. So ask. That's a big one. You don't always have to have an irresistible offer, but you do need to ask. Okay, that makes sense, right? All right, well, up until this point, it looks like people are more inclined to grant us a request when we give them a reason. But what Dr. Langer did was use one final experiment, and she had the people that were going to ask the request, she had them present the request by just restating the obvious. So instead of giving a bona fide reason, like "I'm in a rush," they simply restated the obvious. And here's what they said: "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I go ahead of you because I need to make some copies?" Now, you would think that the results wouldn't improve much. After all, that would be like, oh, I see. You have copies. Well, I only have copies, so go ahead of me. You would think that people would see through that. But it turns out 93% of the time, people acquiesce to that request. They just said yes. So, what's going on here? Well, what's going on is that there's a magical word in this formula, and that magical word is the word because. Because triggers a psychological response in people to want to say yes. If you think about it, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I go ahead of you because I need to make some copies?" The "because" signals that you've got an important reason, or that at least that you have a reason. And so people tend to say yes. So from now on, when you're reaching out on the telephone and calling your prospects and customers, you want to say, "I'm giving you a quick call today because..." And let's see what happens then. It also keeps you on target. You're starting right away. "I'm giving you a quick call today because..." And now you don't dilly-dally around. You move right into your offer. All right, next tip, number 8. All customers and prospects love the word free. Crazy, but they still love the word free. I know sometimes people say, that doesn't work anymore. Yes, it does. In fact, most online businesses have been built on that word. Yeah, let me give you this free report in exchange for your name and email, right? And then they market to you incessantly and eventually, apparently, get a sale, all right? So you can see that the word is still effective. It does still work. They've even tested this and found that the offer, "buy one, get one free," is more effective than 50% off. It's kind of crazy because if you think about it, if there's a dress shop and I walk in there, I could go in and get a $100 dress at 50% off for $50 then. If I go into the other one where there's a buy one, get one free, they might have a $100 dress, but I'd have to buy it, right? Then I'd get another one of equal value for free. So I got it, that I get each dress for $50 and the value is $200, but I had to spend $100. Whereas in the other example, I could just walk in and get a dress for $50 at 50% off. What this shows you is that maybe prospects are not very good at math, but they do respond and react to this word free. So if you can use it, then by all means use it. If you have inventory to release, then you might be thinking, hey, a buy one, get one free could actually put more money into your wallet and be more effective in terms of getting your customers or your prospects to respond. Now, customers and prospects, they also really respond well to the words you and your. Why? Well, because when you use the words you and your prospects or your customers see themselves in the painting or the description. Well, I'll say the painting that you've just described, okay? So if you were to say, all of my customers can pick up a book for $15, yeah, that's nice, okay. But as one of my subscribers or as one of my preferred viewers, you are entitled to my book today for only $15. Now, what happens? Well, the prospect or the customer begins to see themselves in that picture that you've just described. They see themselves buying your book. They see themselves taking action. They see themselves as one of your preferred viewers. Do you see that? So, of course, they're more likely to respond. So you want to use those words. It's one of the most powerful tools that you can use in marketing. Get your prospects or your customers into your own descriptions. When they see themselves doing something, it's just about as good as done. If you imagine yourself doing it, well, then now you want to fulfill on that vision, all right, by taking action. So very, very effective. All right, the 9th tip to presenting an irresistible offer is have a deadline. All irresistible offers have a deadline. You can't just say, hey, let's do lunch sometime. You do know what happens when you say, let's do lunch sometime, right? You and your friends never do lunch because it was always sometime, and sometime is not now. So you've got to have a deadline. How are you going to get people to respond to that? Hey, I'd love to have lunch with you next week. Do you happen to have Wednesday open? Or what days do you have open? That's how you're going to get lunch in your calendar, is by having a deadline, right? And the same works for your prospects. Oh, I'd love to get together with you and do a yearly review. Okay. It's not happening now. So you have to have a deadline. Even if you make it up, you've got to have some kind of a deadline. All right. And then finally, what do all irresistible offers need? What must you do to present an irresistible offer? Sometimes I hear, oh, follow up. Well, yes, you definitely want to follow up. But if you think about it now, an irresistible offer would be part of your follow-up. So as you're following up, you're going to present an irresistible offer during your follow-up process. So following up isn't what you need to do to present an irresistible offer. There's something that you have to do when you present an irresistible offer. I've heard, always thank them. Again, I definitely believe in thanking your prospects, thanking your customers, whether it's thanking them for their time today, thanking them for taking your call, thanking them for the business. Absolutely. But if you think about it, that would happen after you've presented an irresistible offer and they've told you either yes or no. Okay, have you heard this one? Always smile. Really? I love that. Put a mirror on your desk and look in it and smile. And then when you call your customers, they will feel your enthusiasm and they will say yes to you. Right. If only sales were that easy. I mean, we'd all be rich and everybody would have a little mirror on their desk. Notice there's no mirror on my desk. Why? Because I know that, yeah, that might make me feel good to smile, but that isn't what it takes to get somebody to say yes or no to an offer, right? That's not what's truly, truly necessary. And you know that too, because surely you've met a grumpy salesperson or two in your life and you thought, oh, I bet they don't sell much. And then you find out that they're stellar at their job. Well, it's because they're doing this one thing. They always ask for the order. So you have to ask for the order. If you don't ask for the order, there is no irresistible offer here. And let me show you now what asking for the order is not. It is not, oh, I have just come back from the most amazing conference. Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe this company. This company is extraordinary. They have hired the very best people. They have patents and the technology that they have going on. It's incredible. They're going to change the world. I'll tell you, that's what it's going to revolutionize things. You won't believe it. Okay. This is like somebody has handed you a big balloon and you've proceeded to go and you start blowing into that balloon, blowing. And each time, what are you doing? You're creating more and more pressure, or you're building up more pressure, building up more resistance between you and your prospect. And what are they going to do? They're sitting there thinking, oh, for God's sakes, just pop it already. Ask for the order. But no, you just keep going. Oh, and you wouldn't believe the results that people have had. I met some people at this conference and you wouldn't believe what happened to them. Well, first off, blah, 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 blah. You just go on and on and on, right? And you're thinking that your prospect or your customer is going to say, holy cow, really, Tamster? That's amazing. I mean, can you get me in tomorrow afternoon to sign these papers and buy whatever it is you're selling? Do they do that? No, they don't. No, but that's what you want them to do. That's why you won't ask them for the order. And you just keep talking on and on about yourself and your products or your service because you think that they're going to say, geez, Louise, where have you been all my life? Please let me come over and buy this from you. Or, oh, by chance, can I sell it too? Because that would just be the bomb. No, they don't do that. Of course they don't do that because that's not their job. They're not the salesperson. They don't have to ask for the order. No, that's your job. And your job is to present that offer and get it on the table as quickly as possible and in so doing, create as little resistance as possible. Why? Because the more resistance that you build up, the more you talk on and on and on about how great your product or your service is or your company is or whatever this opportunity is, all that's going on is you are saying, you are just dumb if you don't do this. And I've talked about that earlier. When you imply that you're just dumb if you don't do this, people think, well, I guess I'm dumb then. I'll show you. See, you don't win prospects over that way. You make them fall into their little cantankerous act, if you will. All prospects turn into a 2-year-old when you start doing that to them, right? You have to just, you want to just present an offer and then give them the opportunity to freely choose, to say yes or to say no. Either way, you're good with it. You're just leaving it completely up to them. You don't put pressure on them to make them feel like they have to, or they should, or they need to. No, you just present the offer and let them choose. Turns out when you do that, oftentimes your prospects choose what you're offering because they enjoyed this process. You made them want it. You made them want to say yes. So you're probably beginning to understand why sometimes when you're talking to prospects or you're talking to customers, you've been ineffective at generating that appointment or that booking or getting that sale or whatever it is that you're up to. It's because you're probably building way too much pressure and it's not necessary. Now,
let's say that you have a team of salespeople and you go, oh, wow, this is awesome. I want my salespeople to learn this. I'm going to teach them this at my next sales meeting. Okay, why would you do that when I have presented all of this for free? Why would you take it upon yourself to teach what I just shared with you? No, that's ridiculous because you haven't spent years teaching this. So let your people watch the free video. Tell them when they watch it at the sales meeting this month, we're all going to discuss what we got from it. That's what gets people to take action. You don't always want to like force feed people. It's the same thing that we do with our prospects. Oftentimes if we have a team of salespeople, we do the same thing with them. We talk on and on instead of just giving them a choice, putting an offer on the table. Hey, go watch this free video. When you do, we're going to discuss it at the next sales meeting. They don't have to watch it, but then you'll know who's motivated on your team and who's not, right? And if they do watch it, they'll get something from themselves and they'll come and share that. When people come and share what they got, they tend to inspire the others around them, especially because the others see those people as their peers. So it's an amazing way to build internal motivation on a sales team. Give your salespeople the opportunity to choose yes or no to watching the video. And then you discover who's really inspired and motivated on your team to take action, right? So it's a beautiful thing. All right, so this is the difference then, at least I maintain, in presenting an irresistible offer just as versus an offer, is that irresistible offers have the 10 keys that I shared with you just now in this video presentation. But they also, when you combine all of those things together, what you get is an offer that's irresistible because it's not filled with pressure. It's just persuasive. And because it's simple and it's persuasive, prospects feel the freedom to choose. Now, whether they choose yes or no, it doesn't really matter. You can always thank them for their time if they choose no. And if they choose yes, well, of course, you could always thank them for their business and for their time. So it works out perfectly. All right, so just so you know what my irresistible offer is. If I were calling a prospect right now, let's say I'm talking to Jane, I would say, hey Jane, it's Tammy Stanley with the Sales Refinery. Did I catch you at a bad time? And Jane says, no, you caught me at a good time. How are you, Tammy? I'm doing great, Jane. Thanks for asking. Listen, I was giving you a quick call today because as one of my preferred subscribers, you're entitled to a free program on how to increase results with irresistible offers. It's complete with plenty of examples of what an irresistible offer sounds like. And you're entitled to that for free today when you purchase my book, Carpe Phonem, How to Seize the Phone, Take Action, and Call Your Prospects, even when you lack courage. So I'm wondering, Jane, would you like to experience rapid increase in your results? Would you like to experience greater ease and efficacy in prospecting? And would you like to quickly improve your profits by investing in my book today for only $15? Now, Jane might say, wow, that sounds pretty good. Let me ask you, though, what's your book about? Oh, that's a great question, Jane. Well, have you ever experienced a day where you told yourself that you were going to call your prospects, but then you listened to a little voice all day long that talked you out of doing it? Yeah, that happens to me all the time. Yeah, well, that's what my book is about, is basically how to overcome that internal voice that always talks you out of doing what you really do want to do. Oh, that sounds like I could use that, right? Whatever she says. And I say, oh, well, great. Well, then would you like to go ahead and get my free program on increased results with irresistible offers by investing in my book today for only $15? And she might say, oh, I just realized though, do you have it available for Kindle? Oh, that's a great question. No, I don't have it available for Kindle right now, but I need to step on that and make it available. But you know what? I totally understand the desire to have it as a digital format. But one thing I found is that my customers give me feedback and tell me that the cover alone is empowering. It gets them to, they just put it right near their phone and it gets them to pick up the phone and call their prospects. So you might actually like the hard copy. So I'm wondering, would you like to go ahead and get it today for only 15? See, now if she says, yes, I would. Okay, great, right? We're super. And let me get your credit card. Let me get we just move forward with the order. If she says, oh, no, I just really, really only read books now if they're on Kindle. Oh, okay, well, let me ask you, is, is it, if it weren't for not having it on Kindle, is it something that you would want? She says, well, yeah, I really would want it. Okay, well, when I have it available on Kindle, do you want me to reach out to you and let you know? Yes, that would be great. All right, so it's really pretty simple. The key is to get the conversation going. And one of the best ways to get the conversation going is to put your offer out there right away, because then you've already segued. You're already talking about what you want to talk about. So don't waste any more time. Go and pick up my book today, because today when you get it, you're entitled to the free audio collection of Increased Results with Irresistible Offers. And that's that program in its entirety. So you'll get plenty of examples. I believe it's about an hour's worth of examples, different situations to present those kinds of irresistible offers. So don't delay. Pick that up today while it's still available. And that means while I still haven't changed my mind about offering this. So go ahead and do that today. And thank you so much for watching the video. And I'll probably be putting up some more free videos in the near future. So stay tuned. And whatever you do, go out there and seize your phone.